watching the It's Her Time podcast with Cody and Jess. Hi, welcome back to the It's Her Time podcast. My name is Cody Sanders, and I'm a holistic health practitioner and functional nutritionist, and I am all about advocating for you so that you can take care of your own health the best way possible. On today's episode, we are going to invite a special guest named Kaely McDevitt. She is a nutritionist who specializes in women's health, and we're going to be talking about how the diet culture has completely wrecked our hormones as women and what we can do to fix it. You're going to love this conversation. We covered so much. I can't wait for you guys to get to know Kaely a little bit more. But before we do, let's join Jess for a Mixers Girls Say.
Today on Mixers Girls Say, I get to read through cringiest sex stories, and I am okay. Oh, my cheeks hurt already.
They're cringy, you can tell. I haven't heard them yet.
There's a lot that I am just not going to be reading.
I'm sweating over here.
But I'm laughing about. Oh, okay. Grandpa was visiting. We decided to go out and do it in the shed. He decided he needed some tools at the exact same time. Grandpa caught us naked.
No. Is that the end of the story? No. I don't know what Grandpa did after. Did he just close the shed door and go work on whatever he was fixing? Oh, that's funny.
Okay.
Probably he's been there, done that. So, you know.
On a blind date, when he accidentally messaged me saying, I can't.
No, what? I can't. What are you going to say?
I can't wait for this date to be over so I can come and put a baby in you.
What?
So he texted the wrong.
Oh.
So she's saying, like, in the follow-up, she's like, it wasn't me that he was going to have sex with. I just couldn't believe he texted that. Oh.
She's like,
you can take me home now.
That he's wanting to put a baby into. And is she okay with him being on a date?
I don't know.
I don't understand. So many questions there.
So many questions. Mm-hmm. Just getting the text, though, you know, she's like, wait a second.
Like, Kate, and good night.
And bye-bye. Okay. At my friend's house visiting, hubby and I decided to get it on in their guest bedroom. Heard the loudest crack in the floor and we fell through the bed. A board under the bed broke. So it must have been like the bed frame. That's it.
Wow.
They broke the bed at their friend's house. Okay, things were getting frisky with my crush and I farted on him. He never called me again.
Oh, no. That did it, huh? That was it for him?
That's it.
Oh, my gosh. Poor girl.
Okay. All right. Okay.
It's not cringy, maybe don't.
Hole in our front door above the handle. Mother-in-law reaches her hand through and unlocks the door and allows herself in.
Oh.
We were in the middle of going at it. Why? Like,
okay, mother-in-laws.
You mother-in-laws. Mothers.
Yes.
No. No.
No.
No.
No, 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 no.
No. Why do I have to read these?
I don't know. You are the lucky one today.
Oh, okay. Oh, this sort of stuff's funny. Moving, and of course, my brother-in-law found my special outfit, air quote, special outfit drawer with special toys. So awkward. That's like there's just those things.
Yeah.
That like, you don't want your brother-in-law.
Why was her brother-in-law going
helping her move?
Oh, helping her move. Okay. Yeah. Maybe move and box that stuff up before the moving help shows up.
Yeah. Someone wrote in and said, walked in on my parents. I know this isn't a first, but I just have to say I've been scarred ever since. Yeah. You know. Yeah. Anyway, let's go into the episode.
You're like so ready to move on. All right, let's do it. Let's just end the cringe for all of us and go to the episode.
I am cringing, but I'm also like wishing I could hear every person's story with them in real life. Like I want to sit here and just laugh with everyone. Anyway, thanks for sharing your funny stories. My cheeks hurt. Also, I'm sweating. You're sweating.
Yep.
You did it to us.
We're cringed out.
Yep. Mixers is a company made for women by women. Each of our products have been carefully and lovingly crafted to support you in all stages of your life, providing you with the optimal health you deserve. Each ingredient we handpick is 100% all natural, backed by science, and chosen specifically to better your life physically, mentally, and hormonally. Each product empowers your body to take charge of its monthly hormonal shift and flows, empowering you to live life to the fullest. Let Mixers take care of your needs from sunup to sundown, and you take care of the rest. Check us out at mixers.com, Mixhers.
Kaely, I'm so excited to have you on here. This topic today is going to be one that I think every woman is going to be so interested in. They're going to want to open up their ears and really think through their just history and how they have felt like they've maybe been treated in the medical world and in the fitness world and in that diet culture that surrounds us. And we're going to talk about how all of this comes into play and what we can learn about this and ourselves, and then how we can make sure that we're giving our body and our minds and everything the support that we deserve. But before we dive into all of this, let's have you just say hi to everybody. Tell us a little bit about you, what you feel so passionate about talking about.
Sure. Hello, everybody. And thanks so much for having me, Cody. I'm pumped for this conversation. So I'm a dietitian that works in women's health, and Cody and I were talking a little bit before we started recording, and I just didn't have the intention to really be in this space, but I was having a lot of health issues myself, specifically hormone health issues while I was in school becoming a dietitian, and was just realizing how poorly suited most conventional nutrition advice is for women, because I was doing it to a T and it was not helping me. And I felt like a fraud, honestly, as an early dietitian, because I was doing it all and it was not helping me. So I really pivoted away from sports nutrition and into women's health and became obsessed with learning about how nutrition impacts hormones and where I think women need to approach things differently than the standard dogma around nutrition, and moved into this space. And I love it. And I love educating about it because I think it's your birthright to feel amazing. And we're up against a lot, and we have been for a lot of years. So I like to clear the air around that.
Oh, yes. I know. This is exactly why I wanted you to be on this podcast, because I feel like having somebody that's been in this field for a while, for over a decade, you've seen a lot of different trends, and you're similar to me. When I first started in the health and wellness world, a lot of the studies, the things that we were taught in school were based on studies that I didn't know it at the time, but they were done on men. And they weren't, they weren't actually done on women, because we've talked about it on this podcast before, but women are they're tough test subjects, right? We're cyclical. We're not the same from one day to the next. And so it just makes it a little harder for these people that are conducting these tests and these studies to include us. But that doesn't mean that they shouldn't, because we're not just little men. We need to be able to have a unique approach to our personal needs. And so that's awesome. I love that we can have this kind of broader perspective. And I can't wait to hear more about the things that you're doing and the ways that you're approaching women's health, and how that looks different than maybe it used to look.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm excited too. And I think you hit on the key concept. We're cyclical beings, and we're not the same day in and day out. And I think we get caught up and we get led astray when we try to force ourselves into the box that every day is the same, whether that's nutrition needs or even what we would expect for our performance and creativity and work capacity. Right. And the more we can get in tune with those cycles, the better we generally feel.
It's so true. And I feel like we can't talk about this enough, because I feel like it's something that if we can be aware of, and the better we learn about our bodies and about these different phases and cycles in our life, the better we're going to be able to support ourselves in achieving the health, goals that we all have, instead of feeling like we're burned out or we're frustrated because all of our good efforts seem to not be, getting us anywhere. It's so important for us to understand better that we will actually see and feel better when we are working with our bodies instead of against them.
Amen. Well said.
So let's dive into it today. Let's talk about some things first of all, let's talk about diet culture. When you talk about diet culture, what are you meaning by diet culture?
Yeah. So I'm meaning really anything that's creating rules around your nutrition that's outside of you. So outside of your own hunger and fullness cues and outside of what you know to be true in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And we serve primarily women like in their 20s to early 40s in our practice. So largely the childbearing years. And I think that entire age range is considered millennials somehow.
Yeah.
It seems like a really big,
Seems like everybody's a millennial, right?
Everybody is a millennial. So I just think as a fellow millennial woman, just the messaging that we grew up with in the 90s, in the 80s, in the early 2000s. And it was like every 5 days, it was something new. It was like, we're really afraid of carbs.
Oh,
nope,
yeah.
We're good with carbs. We're really afraid of fat. Nope. Now we're just eating special case cereal for every meal. And we just had like really ridiculous messaging around food. So it was like using food to manipulate your body. That was the only goal of the food. And the messaging was that the thinnest you could possibly be was the best and the healthiest. And I think I just didn't even really realize how much that was ingrained in me until I was sitting there in school and I was using nutrition to manipulate my body. And I was thinking that the thinnest I could be was the healthiest. And the unfortunate problem with all of that is that it messes with our hormones, as you know, we both have seen in practice. And I've lived personally too.
Absolutely. You know, I never even connect the dots that anything that we should even be thinking about our hormones, you know, for the first 10, 15 years of the time that I was, you know, first in the health and wellness world, you know, fitness was a huge part of my beginnings in this world. And so you're right. It was like a calorie model. It was the calories in versus calories out model. And, you know, I remember I would have people that would come in and obviously I was not like saying this was a good idea, but I had people that thought this was a good idea, that they were fine to eat anything they wanted as long as it didn't have fat in it. So I had a lady that literally lived off of lettuce and licorice.
Oh, wow.
It was her diet that she swore by, and she was losing weight. But what she didn't realize is that what she was losing was so much of her like muscle, which is so important for our longevity, for just our overall well-being. So I'm so grateful now that we've moved on a lot from there. I feel like there's a lot of information out there and it still can be very confusing. And hopefully we can kind of get through some of the confusion that's there. But I do feel like as a society, as women, we've come a long way, but you're right. We do have some things that were like, they're part of our little foundation. They maybe, you know, were modeled to us, or somehow we tried something in our past and it worked for us. And then we think that's something that's good. So let's bust some of those things and let's talk about what actually does work and helps to support us long-term for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like you mentioned, we're whittling away at our muscle mass when we do extreme measures, whether it's extreme measures on fitness or the like calorie counting side. But I think even bigger than that, we're whittling away our vitality. And so I think those goals around how we look just end up being really short-sighted. And I think we assume once we get to that particular aesthetic goal that like all is well in life. But for anyone that's actually navigated that journey and gotten there, they realize it's typically not that way. And we see, you know, into the like later 30s and 40s that if we've whittled away that vitality, you just don't have that like spark for life anymore because we don't have the energy for it. We don't have the hormones to support showing up fully in life and like full expression of our existence. It can impact our fertility. It impacts how smoothly or not smoothly we go through the menopause transition too. So just want to paint a picture that it's a lot bigger than just that. So if we think about it in that sense, and if the goal is, I want to feel the most vibrant, energetic version of myself that can show up in my life with my family, with my friends, in my career the way that I want to, then our goals with nutrition are to be as supportive to optimal hormone production that we can be. And one of the biggest fundamentals of that is we have to eat enough. That is the biggest safety signal in the body.
Absolutely. I love that you use the word safety signal because I use that all the time. So I know this audience is going to understand what you mean when you say that. And I love also the words vitality because, you know, I think so many times we think of weight loss, and when we have these weight loss goals, yes, it does affect our appearance, but more than anything, have we ever, and I know all of us can think of somebody who's lost a lot of weight and then they actually look worse than they did before, right? They look hollow, they look pale, they just don't have that vital like energy like you're talking about. And that's because of everything that you've just mentioned. It's because yes, you wasted away, you lost some weight, but what you lost was your vitality giving tissue, which is known as muscle, as well as you became extremely nutrient deficient. And this audience realizes too that nutrient deficiency is the number one root cause of hormone imbalance. And so you can see how this is all connected. Yeah, I appreciate you saying all of that. That's so true.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And, I say that we have had this kind of progression and the culture has become better. But I don't know if you agree with me. I've been noticing that we've been taking a few steps back recently. There's some new trends that are out there. They've been around for about a year or so. And we're starting to see the trend going towards skinny again and taking drastic measures in order to achieve that skinny, and I'm wondering like at what cost. So can we talk a little bit about that as well? I'd love
for sure. And I agree. I think we've taken a couple of steps back in a few areas that I know we'll get into, but I think, again, we have to come back to the fundamental truth that as women, as cyclical beings, we're supposed to have some body fat on our frame. Like that supports hormone production. And if conception is a goal of yours now or in the future, it supports fertility too. So trying to adhere to this societal image of a certain level of thinness is typically completely at odds with our own hormone and metabolic needs as a cyclical being. So I'm bummed to see it going back. We had like a brief moment where we were embracing curves and being excited about it, and now we're going back to skinny. So I would caution anybody that's feeling like that tempt where it's like, it's triggering something from us 20 years ago where we were really into that and now it's back around, to just pause for a second and think about what is the purpose of that goal. And if it is aesthetically driven only, what are we sacrificing for that goal? And is it worth it for us? It's like you said, we've seen friends, or maybe it's even been us, where we've lost weight and then we just don't feel great. We don't show up great. And maybe that energy that you used to have to pursue passions outside of like your must-dos for the day just goes away. And I think it's just a sad image of women not living at their full capacity. And I think that that's really what our trade-off is when we want to seek thinness at all costs.
And it makes me wonder too that, and I know culture is very much involved in this. It makes me wonder why are we succumbing to that cultural pressure to look a certain way instead of feel a certain way? And, that could go into so many different areas of conversation, whether it's cosmetic surgeries or whether it's, all of these drastic things that we do because we care so much about our appearance that we're forgetting that it's really about, hopefully it should be for all of us to be really trying to optimize our life and our vitality and our health and long-term health, and really, truly, like this whole podcast is, I do this each week so that I can help empower women to be their own best health advocates. And why? So if you are in a stage of life where you are trying to support fertility, that you are actually doing that. Or if you are a woman that's about to enter into perimenopause or menopause, I want you to be able to transition through that stage of life without all of those terrible symptoms that we are so scared of. That's not necessarily like, it doesn't have to be the case for every woman. We can transition through all of these different ages and stages and phases of our life. And we can do so with energy, with vitality, with joy, with happiness, all of these things that I feel like are much bigger priorities than even appearance is. And so, I just, I think that as an audience, we are probably all on the same page. And I appreciate this community because we're like-minded and we've got the bigger picture in mind, but it's still important for us to have these types of conversations and then share these kinds of conversations with the girls in our life and the people in our life, because we can overcome and overtake like diet culture. It's really, it's whether you decide to buy in or not, so what are you going to buy into? So of course, Kaely and I are wanting to encourage you to buy into you and to your health. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Kaely, tell us a little bit about like the people that you work with. Who is it that you mostly work with? Do you have a special demographic that you mostly are specialized in? And tell me what it is that is most common, like something that you see most common with the people that you work with.
Yeah. So we work with women in childbearing years predominantly. So again, like 20 to 40-ish is typically the age range. And Our typical client is either dealing with cycle symptoms, so miserable, painful, erratic periods, or maybe it's totally absent and they want to get it back, or they're trying to conceive. And maybe they've already been through the gamut of like what conventional medicine had to offer for them, and they want to see what else is out there. And usually married in those two categories of like cycle issues and fertility issues is stuff going on with their metabolism, their thyroid, their gut. Because as you know, nothing in the body happens in isolation. There's usually a lot going
connected.
on.
Yeah. All connected. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I love that there's places like this out there. And I think that this is so helpful for us women to realize that we can, when we are looking for people to help be our guides, that there are people out there like Kaely and like what I used to do. I'm not doing it currently anymore, but instead get to talk to you on this podcast instead. But there are people out there that can help guide you through that so that you can understand if you are having cycle symptoms, that are uncomfortable or miserable or, whatever, absolutely debilitating. There's somebody that can help you understand why that is happening and then how to like go through that. And then whether it's you're wanting to support your fertility or like I mentioned before, like just transition into the different phases of life. So I love that, first of all, that you're out there doing that and you're teaching women about how their menstrual cycles can tell us so much about our overall health. So yeah, continue with that. Let's talk about that a little bit more. I love talking about this subject. How can when somebody comes in to see you and they're trying to conceive, let's say that's our example. Yeah. And they tell you about their cycles. What is it that you most likely see?
Yeah. So we do a big like full health history. So we want to know every major event, whether it was health, life, stress, or whatever, really from birth on, because I think it paints a picture of the story that led them to where they are. And we want to know, like, what was that first period like way back in the day? What were your early periods like? And if there was birth control use, how long was it? When did the period come back? All of that data. And we typically see women dealing with really significant cycle symptoms that they've been told are normal. And I know this was the case for me too. Like, I think all the messaging to women is your period's going to be miserable. It's just this pain in the ass that you have to deal with once a month, unless you want birth control, and then you don't have to deal with it. And then pregnancy and birth are going to be horrible. And then menopause is just the worst. It's like all negative stuff.
Yeah. It's like, too bad you chose the wrong stick, it's like, you're a woman, buckle up, so yeah.
So just a lot of like common, but not normal stuff. So maybe they're dealing with at least a week, if not 2 out of the month. They've got mood swings. They have low libido. They just don't feel like themselves. And then as they get closer to their period, they've got such significant cramps that like ibuprofen and heating pads and maybe missed days of work are the only option. And then their energy is just so low throughout that and also during their period. And so then they get 1 or 2 weeks each month where maybe they feel a little glimmer of what it's like to feel like themselves and have energy. And that's pretty typical for our clients. I'd say secondary to that would just be either really irregular or totally absent cycles where it's been years where they haven't had a regular period. So we start by looking at, okay, how are we nourishing ourselves? How are we moving? How are we sleeping? How are we dealing with stressors in the state of our nervous system? And then we typically do some testing to look kind of under the hood a bit at their physiology and their nutrient status, which you touched on, and I know is big with your audience and the work that you do. Nutrient deficiencies are rampant. And I think it's often shocking how rampant they are, because a lot of women that eat what they would deem to be a really healthy, diverse diet will do lab work on, and they've got deficiencies all over the place. It was true for me too. The first time I ever did testing, I was like deeply offended.
I know. You're like, wait, I am a nutritionist. Like, I know what I'm supposed to be putting in my body. And if you look, and I'm like, I swear you could look at every, nutrition journal, and and it's like, it's very hard these days, if not impossible, to completely get all of the nutrients that our bodies need just through the food that we're eating now. And I used to not believe that. I used to be like, and I still am a food first person, but there is absolutely a necessity for supplementing with the right kinds of supplements that are going to be supportive of your body's nutrients or levels.
Absolutely.
So I love all of these things that you're saying. I mean, I could dive into so many of these things, and I'm going to, so buckle up yourself here, because we're going to go for a fun ride. I love it. We know that our cycle symptoms are just our body's way of communicating with us. It's our body's way of telling us that there is an imbalance. And so let's bust that first myth, which you just did, that a lot of these symptoms that we're suffering with, sometimes we've been told like it's just part of being a woman. Okay, if that's you and you thought that was the case, know now and forevermore that that is not true at all. It is possible to go through different phases of life and even every single period with it just showing up and not being like showing up with a bunch of fanfare and drama, right? So if you're experiencing some of the things that Kaely was talking about, you know, like such debilitating cramps that you're taking ibuprofen and you're missing days of work, you can't get to school, you can't participate in sports, you can't do all these things. You're being sidelined basically from life. And a lot of girls are being sidelined for 2 weeks. Like that's not okay. And that's not a good thing that you're just, you know, should just put up with. There are some solutions out there. And so it is important for you to find somebody that can help you through this, and a practitioner that is not going to just write you a prescription and tell you that this is like a little magical pill that's going to make all of these troubles go away. And I know you know what I'm talking about. I feel like the birth control pill is like that prescription that just gets handed out like candy. And it's promising that it's going to fix all of your hormonal imbalance, you know, issues. And if anything, it just makes it worse. Okay. So there's that. So seek somebody like Kaely, somebody that's going to be able to help understand like what's actually going on. Okay. This is where I'm going with this. Kaely mentioned how it's so important to even go all the way back to birth. Okay. So many practitioners out there, they don't. You might fill out a little form, whether they look at it or not. I would say most of them don't. If you're working with somebody that is a nutritionist and is a hormone health expert like Kaely, she's going to look at all of that history, because there's so much that we need to understand, because you are not like the woman sitting next to you. Every person is different. Yes, we have some of the same biology, but we have different histories, and it's going to play a huge part in that. So let's get into that, because I think this is fascinating for women. Because when I used to ask this question, like, tell me about your birth. First of all, like, were you born all of it's natural, but were you born vaginally, or did you have a C-section? Okay, let's talk about that. Why would that matter?
Yeah. So that's our first question. How did you come into this world?
Yeah.
And when you are born vaginally, you get exposed to mom's vaginal microbiome, and it helps seed the gut microbiome. So there's a big advantage from like a digestive health standpoint for a vaginal birth versus a C-section. Now, there's certainly things that can be done to help C-section babies get that same exposure, whether it's like a vaginal swab literally wiped on the baby, or just using specific probiotics early in life. But that tells us a lot about like predisposition for gut health issues and dysbiosis and imbalances in the gut. I also want to know, were you breastfed or formula fed primarily as a baby? Because again, that's impacting digestive tract development and nutrient exposure early on in life. And then like leading from there, just any significant childhood events, whether it was maybe like I had strep throat all the time as a kid. So I was on antibiotics all the time. That's a helpful thing to know for the health of your gut.
So important. Strep throat, ear infections. I mean, there's so many things, UTIs, these little things that you don't think of, that, you know, kids just get sick and we just give them an antibiotic. But how many times did you get prescribed an antibiotic as a child, right? This does play a part in all of this.
Yeah, because today's symptoms are not some random manifestation of something happening today. It's your whole story. And like you already said, you know, those symptoms are not a malfunction. That's just the only option of communication that the body has. And it's asking you to look somewhere, asking you to provide support somewhere, but they didn't start from something that you did yesterday. Like this is your whole life's story kind of manifesting as today. So it's just so helpful for practitioners to look back at the whole life, but also for you, because I think it's helpful to just know the different types of stressors we've been exposed to and how that could have molded current health and nervous system state. I think we give ourselves a lot more grace when we look at that whole list. Because it's pretty common with our clients that they'll have a like pretty dramatic change in health, where maybe they had like new onset cycle symptoms or thyroid issues out of the blue, or the gut. And they're like, I have no idea. I lived the same healthy lifestyle. And then we look back and there was a move, a divorce, a death in the family, a major like there were all these stressors. And it makes sense when you look at that timeline.
Yeah. And we don't always connect the dots. We don't always think about those things. So to empower you ladies as you're going and you're looking for the right practitioner and you're, trying to prepare yourselves to make the most out of your time with the practitioner. If you can go in advance prepared with some of these, like this information already prepared, this will be tremendously helpful for your practitioner to be able to support you. So think about these things. Go back. And if you don't know some of the answers, talk to your mom or your dad or an older sibling or somebody that was there, and they can help answer some of these questions for you. And you might not think that it's something that's so important, but it truly can be. So thank you. Cause I wanted to dive into that. And I don't know that we've talked about it much on this podcast. I know I've mentioned it in previous episodes, but who knows how long ago that was. So I think that's great that we're bringing all of this to light. This health history is very important for us to understand what's going on with us hormonally, what's going on with us metabolically, all of these things too. Okay. So let's continue on just a little bit. I love how you also brought up the point that does have an effect not only on our gut microbiome, but it's going to have an effect on our nervous system. So how is our nervous system connected to all of this as well?
Yeah. And I was listening to the episode you did. I forget the name of the practitioner, but it was all focused on the nervous system and somatic healing. And it was so good. So if anyone has missed that one, it's great.
Thank you.
This is a newer, like in the last couple of years thing that kind of came on my radar because we were reflecting on clients that really excel and see quick progress versus ones that don't. And you're like, what is the difference between these people?
Love that you're going to talk about this. Okay. Yes.
And typically it's that there's a lot of unchecked stress or a really dysregulated nervous system for the ones that aren't improving. And so when we say nervous system, this is really just your body's ability to assess safety from its surroundings and how you're living and moving through life. And the typical state for the modern human is to hang out in that like sympathetic, dominant fight or flight state most of the time. Whereas we were designed to be in that state short periods of time when there was an actual threat and then come back into the parasympathetic rest, digest, and heal state most of the time. Right. And
we're just flip-flopped, you guys. Yeah. We're just flip-flopped. And we don't even sometimes realize that we are in fight or flight. Like, I think we're so good at just dealing with stress and living in chronic stress that we don't even recognize. So yeah, this is so true. So check in with yourself. Keep going, Kaely. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, you're good. I would even just add, we're addicted to living in that state.
Yes. Good point. That's so true.
And I mean, I'd call myself out with this just as much as anyone else that feels called out, but we just get addicted to that certain level of stress hormones, this certain cocktail of adrenaline and cortisol in our system. Because a lot of times it feels good because you just feel really amped up and you're like, I can get all this stuff done. I'm like typing 1,000,000 miles an hour. I'm doing all these CrossFit workouts and, the wheels do eventually fall off when we hang out in stress hormone city all the time, which we can come back to that concept. But essentially with the nervous system, modern humans, we're kind of stuck, not leveraging the rest, digest, and heal state that we're actually designed to be in. And the way that shows up in women's health is really rapid nutrient depletion. So we burn through minerals and B vitamins and antioxidants like no other when we are in that overdrive state. And then our body seeks safety in order to ovulate and produce hormones. So if we have all this input that we are unsafe, we need stress hormones, we typically see issues with ovulation or issues with hormone production.
Yeah, because our body's like, wait, no way am I going to bring a baby into a world like this. This is scary stuff. And so it's going to help you by suppressing your fertility. It's going to keep you from being fertile and to make it less likely that you get pregnant. So our body is always are thinking that they're doing us favors. They're not trying to work against us. They're actually trying to protect us and do us favors, even though it doesn't always feel like that. Sometimes it can feel frustrating, but yes, love it. I love that you're diving into this. It's so important to understand.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was a light bulb moment because when you see that about clients and what I've noticed over the last, probably since 2020, when everything got like extra crazy for us humans, the baseline level of stress for our clients was just like ratcheting up year over year. And so we actually ended up building in like a nervous system support program into the way that we serve clients. It's facilitated by a physician's assistant colleague here. I'm in the Austin area. And it's been so pivotal to get the nervous system support while we work on the diet and lifestyle stuff, because it has a faster and more lasting impact when we're not burning through resources like crazy. And an analogy we use with our clients is if we neglect the stress and nervous system, we're trying to fill up a cup that has holes in the bottom. And we're not going to see much, if any, progress. But if we work on the stress and nervous system and patch those holes, now we see the cup fill back up a lot faster.
I love that visual. That's a good analogy. I love that. I know it's so true. And if we're going to take a holistic approach to our health, which is what we're all about over here at Mixers, and that's what my approach is with the people I work with, you have to look at all of these different bodies of our health, So this is definitely part of, it's a body that gets totally neglected sometimes. We do all of the right things, like we're trying to eat really healthy and good nutrition. We're trying to move our bodies. We're doing that, calories in versus calories out method, or whatever it is that we think we're doing to achieve health. But if our body is, or our, mind is perceiving that we are in danger and it's not getting enough of those safety signals on a consistent basis, our body puts us into survival mode. So the more you move, the more danger your body is perceiving. The less you eat, the more danger your body is perceiving. So it's going to turn on. This is where it gets connected to our metabolism, is it's going to do you a favor, like I was saying before, and help you to survive long term. So you're going to just pack on any of those calories that you're taking in and store it as fat, because it thinks, oh, this is going to help you get through the famine or whatever it is that's stressing you out. Right. And so it's all of this is connected, girls. And I think this is so important when you are looking for a practitioner, that you are looking for somebody that understands how to take a holistic approach, how to address root cause. So this is so great. So we look at the nervous system. Anything else you want to say about the nervous system?
No, I think those are the key points there. But you had mentioned something with once you're in that survival mode, how things like a restrictive diet or exercise actually just add insult to injury. And I'm sure anyone listening to this can relate to that experience of applying so much effort with your diet and exercise and actually seeing the reverse of what you would expect to see. Mm-hmm. And if we continue to think that my body's doing this in error, we just diet harder or we exercise harder and we dig that hole even further down. So the reframe is my body is actually brilliantly designed. It has my back completely, and all the things that it's doing are to look out for me. So how can I position myself to be on the same team instead of trying to manipulate with diet and lifestyle? Then everything changes and things just get a lot easier.
Oh, I love that. I think too, and I've talked about this, I talk about any approach that we take towards health should never feel like punishment. It should feel like love and nourishment. And you're right. I think because of diet culture for so many years, we had the end goal being how we would appear. And so in order to get to that, whatever that appearance is that we're all thinking is so wonderful, during that time period, a lot of times we think the only way to get there is through absolutely punishing ourselves, breaking ourselves down. And especially as women, in the long term, that really does us no favors because there's nothing left. There's no vitality, like we mentioned at the beginning. There's no health. There's no long-term, benefit to that. And so yeah, I love that thought process there. And I hope that just sinks in, that you girls that are listening to this, you're just resonating with that so much. So, okay. So we've talked about these things, how our menstrual cycles can tell us so much about what's happening inside our bodies. We've talked about how the nervous system is part of this. This is so important. Let's get into the hormones specifically, if you wouldn't mind, because I feel like obviously at Mixers, we're a hormone friendly company. We try to address the three main root causes of hormone disruption through nutritional supplementation. This is just a tool, but there are other tools necessary. And this is why we have guests like Kaely on our podcast so that we can talk about some of these other tools to complement what we're doing with our nutritional therapy. And so let's talk about the hormones that help to or let's talk first about what we see in imbalances. How about that? If we are living in a state of fight or flight, okay, or we're in our sympathetic nervous system state, what is happening with us hormonally?
Yeah. Okay. So we've got a group of hormones that we can refer to as stress hormones. Okay. There are several, but we're mostly thinking about cortisol and adrenaline. And so the feeling of adrenaline if you've ever been in traffic and someone cuts you off and you have to slam your brake. It's like that feeling of it flooding your system. Mm-hmm. And when we are in a high stress, kind of addicted to that stress hormone roller coaster state, we have a lot of those stress hormones in our system. And those stress hormones are designed to bring sugar into the bloodstream so that we have the energy to deal with the crisis at hand. Ancestrally, this made sense because the crisis would be, you need to run from this lion and you have to have the energy to do it. But now we have that same blood sugar flooding the system effect from like a stressful work call or like a weird text message that's like passive aggressive. So yeah,
we're getting bombarded by these too. It's not like, I mean, there'd be one tiger, that somebody'd have to deal with. And now we're like all day long, like having to deal with all of these triggers, but the same physiological response is happening. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And we're just staring at blue light all the time. We're on our social media, seeing everything that's happening in the world all at once. So we just have constant little tigers and we have the stress hormones in our system. So one of the things they do, like we talked about, was bringing blood sugar levels up so that we have the energy to deal with the crisis at hand. But the problem is if we're dealing with that in a sedentary state, which we typically are, now we've got blood sugar issues, and insulin is another hormone that kind of enters the chat. And that can mess with our ovulation. It can mess with the level of androgens that we produce. A really common condition that we see in our practice is polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS.
Yep. We got a lot of you ladies listening. Yep.
Yeah. It's very common. And this is where androgen levels are higher than they should be. And this means we've got really inconsistent ovulation. We typically deal with things like acne and oily skin, maybe even facial hair growth or scalp hair loss. And a big driver of that is actually the stress hormones dumping into the system, raising blood sugar and insulin. Then the other thing that happens with our stress hormones is, again, we've lost safety signals. And our body makes the decision to ovulate or not based on safety. So if we don't feel that it's safe to bring new life into this world and support another being, even if that's not your goal, this is the body's decision, then we're going to slow down or stop ovulation. And without ovulation, we don't get progesterone, which in the realm of having really amazing periods and consistent cycles and great fertility, progesterone is the MVP. And progesterone is what we want. When you think of a woman that feels really solid in who she is, grounded, present, calm, and not reactive, that is a woman with great progesterone production. We don't see a ton of those women, but I think it's important that we can be those women, and then it teaches those around us and has that nice ripple effect of what that could look like. So I guess that's really the cascade of, stress to hormones.
You did such a great job in describing that. And I always think of it as like a little like pyramid, and everything kind of has a little cascading effect on other hormones, but you brought it all around and how it kind of all works together. So it was so great. Progesterone is it's our hormone that when I was working with most women that were dealing with cycle issues or were dealing with resistant weight loss issues or, things like that. Oftentimes when we would do their blood work and their labs, we would see that they were progesterone deficient. And so then that would then cause estrogen dominance. And that was very connected to so many things. Everything is connected. Our metabolism, all of these things are connected, girls. And I hope we're kind of putting the dots together for you so that you understand that's why this is why that's important. That's what I need to do to support this. I hope we're kind of bringing this, full circle. But yeah, progesterone is the thing that I think most women, especially in their 30s and 40s, was what I found, but really you could be at any age and maybe have deficiency in progesterone. And there's a lot of things that we can do to help support optimal progesterone production. And so some of the things that, instead of going back and repeating everything that we've just talked about, the things that we were just talking about, helping to support our stress, giving our bodies, doing things throughout the day to help give our bodies safety signals as often as we can throughout the day, helping to get the right nutrients, being nutrient sufficient instead of deficient is going to help to support optimal progesterone production. All of these things come into play. And like Kaely said, if you're a woman that wants to feel like her very best self, that's where we should be focusing. Mixer's product, Her Time, that's what it's designed to specifically do, is to help support the body in being able to produce optimal levels of progesterone naturally. So it's not putting progesterone into your body, but it's going to support your body and helping your body to do what it knows how to do best.
Love that. Yeah, we just need more progesterone, I think, as a society.
I love progesterone. I mean, all of our sex hormones, obviously everything has a purpose and it has a place. It's just when things get imbalanced. That's the problem. That's when we start seeing those symptoms show up. So yeah, hopefully you're kind of understanding, when girls, as you're listening in, like why some of these symptoms might be present and what these symptoms can be telling you, because I really do think that's the fascinating part of understanding what symptoms are, is understanding what they mean. Like if you're seeing a hormonal imbalance and you're having these symptoms like heavy bleeding, or you're having infertility, or you're, not sleeping well, you have insomnia. There's so much that we can learn from those symptoms about what's happening with you hormonally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's so much within your power to get rid of those symptoms too. Once we know what's driving it, then we can provide the support necessary for the body, and we don't have to deal with these symptoms for an indefinite period of time. It's not a life sentence for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it's all about. As girls, I always say this, I'm sorry, I cannot say this enough, but like, we have a lot that we've got to get done in this world,
Yes.
A lot of good things that we're supposed to be, like doing, that we want to do, not just supposed to be doing, but that we want to do. And nothing makes me more sad or frustrated for you ladies is when I hear that you're feeling held back and that you're not able to show up the way that you want to. It just drives me every single day to like, okay, we're going to try to give you the education and the support that you need in order to understand your body, your miraculous body, even better, so that you can be, again, your own best health advocate. So yeah, Kaely, I love all of this. Let's continue on. If there's anything else that you want to share with these ladies, I love everything that you're sharing with us so far.
Yeah, I would just kind of piggyback on what you just said, and why I'm so thankful for podcasts and audiences like yours. I think it's so important for women to continually hear this discussion, even if this isn't the first time you've come across these concepts, especially as it relates to not buying into this like body image and diet culture stuff that we're really surrounded with, because it can be easy to slip down that slope if we're hanging out on social media and the internet at large. So I think it's important for women to be in communities where they can hear really positive messages. Because I think collectively we're so bored of the skinny at all costs. Like, we're just bored. We have other things to do.
Sick and tired of it. Right?
Just bored. And yeah, we've got big things to do. And the world needs women that feel amazing, because when they feel amazing, they do amazing things. And that ripples out, not just to the next generation, but to the other women around her. So yeah, I just think it fires me up that you have an audience that has these kinds of discussions routinely, because it's just really needed.
Well, it fires me up to have guests on like you who are like-minded and who care and feel just as passionate as I do, and the rest of us that are here today listening. It means so much. As women, we're so unique. We have been designed beautifully, and it's so important for us to learn to work with our unique bodies and to stop working against them. Let's give ourselves like the best possible, setup for success as we possibly can. So I love having conversations like this. I love introducing you ladies to women like Kaely, and others like her that are out there, that are feeling passionate, that are here to help hold your hand, to give you the tools that you need in order to help support your health and your best life ever. So Kaely, anything else before we go? I definitely want to share with the audience like ways that they can connect with you, because I know everybody's going to want to come and follow along with all of the things that you're putting out into the world.
Sure. Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram. It's at Kaely RD. My name is spelled weird. It's Kaely RD.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
We'll make sure people can find it in the show notes. But yeah, it's cute. I love it.
Listen, I would love to hear what you thought. So come say hi. You'll find a bunch of just free education going on over there. So if this was something that piqued your interest, you'll find a lot more deep dives. And then you'll also find ways that my team and I can help support you wherever you're at in your hormone health journey. And I think it's a cool time because you just don't have to go this stuff alone anymore. Mm-hmm. I think probably when we were experiencing our own health stuff, it was a lot of like just trying to piecemeal it from the things you could learn from the internet and books. And it's just different now. So there's a lot of help out there. And if you need help and feel drawn to this approach, then I'd love to chat.
I love that. Yes. Turn to Kaely. Now, if you don't live in the Austin area, are they able to still work with you remotely?
Yes. Yeah. We work actually 100% virtual. So anywhere you are.
Isn't that so cool? There's some good things about all of this blue light that we're exposing ourselves to every day, right? There's some really great things. So perfect. Well, I hope you ladies do reach out to Kaely and follow along, because she does put out so much important information that's going to support you and helping make this whole, life feel easier for you. That's the whole goal. There's no need to suffer just because we're women. We're not made to suffer. We're made to thrive. So that's what we're here to support you with. So all right, you girls, until next time, I hope that you guys have such a happy and healthy week. And I look forward to being back here next week. All right, bye.